Welcome back to another wonderful episode of Brews and Business Podcast. Today, we have a wonderful guest all the way, like almost literally 1,000 miles away from the state of California in Coronado, John Paul Meisner, Dr. Meisner from Back to Play Chiropractic. A little bit of an entrepreneur, and I say that like little because you're like just kind of gotten started over the last couple of years, and you're about to be a serial because you're trying to expand and grow and maybe do something here in Oklahoma. So welcome to the Brews and Business Podcast.
Absolutely. Well, it's good to be here, and I'll try to avoid licking the microphone and losing contact with you guys throughout the entirety of this episode. So.
Good. That'd be a good idea.
Like it.
Yeah. So give me a little introduction.
Obviously you've watched my journey. I mean, you didn't see me for probably 8 years plus, just because I was hitting the books, hitting the academics, trying to get the necessary
literally didn't see
wheels
him for 8 years.
and automotive, life transport stuff taken care of. So just getting the license, getting through the boards, all that was just pain in the butt. As you know, it adds grace for sure. But finally, kind of just done with it and ready to explore. And they don't teach you any of the business stuff in school and academics. So for me, it was like all a learning curve, and I'm still learning, but it doesn't matter what you're selling, whether it's healthcare, flooring, roofing, whatever, what have you. You still have to get out there and you have to fucking grind. So that's kind of where it's at. So, but when you first graduate, you're like, oh, I pay my dues with the academics, but the reality is like, no, you have to go out there and still work for something. So I look back at it and I go, was it even worth it? I think yes, but it was a lot to get that license and get it kind of to a point where I was actually allowed to play in that industry.
So you say you just finished with all that. You're saying like you just got your license?
That was a couple of years. That was a couple of years ago. But I mean, in the sense of like, if I would just go straight up to entrepreneurship, it would have been 10 years ago probably of trying something again, and kind of learning that. So, but it's also learning to work with people. They don't teach you that in school. They're it's all science. And you're like, well, science doesn't tell you no, and you offer them the $2,000 package, and it's just like, well, you need this. Well, I don't want it. So it's one of those things where you have to understand that you're dealing with humans, psychology, as well as healthcare. And I think a lot of people underestimate that when they get out of the program. So it's been a journey. But it's growing, and it's cool to see the growth. I think with any entrepreneur, it's like they say it takes 3 years for any business to really start to show inside referrals, word of mouth. So I'm kind of getting to that point now, but I'm also looking to expand, like Brandon was saying, and and not get bored with it. I think as an entrepreneur, sometimes we get so immersed and so engrossed and so psyched out, like 24/7 thought, where you're almost like either burn out or you just get bored. So just kind of keeping it fresh is kind of where I'm trying to do a little bit.
So did you, upon getting your licensing, did you work under somebody, or did you go straight to working underneath yourself, or working for yourself?
So I was an associate or independent contractor, I guess. And so I did that for a short while. I ended up going on my own and opened my own practice in Coronado. But again, another really weird market, a really weird niche. But I think, learning under somebody and kind of learning the ropes, and I'm still learning every day. But I think it's helpful to kind of get a clue of what the heck you're doing.
Right.
There's one thing to treat the patient. That's the easy part. It's like, okay, I know what to do when somebody comes in and goes, I have this problem, this hurts. How do you make this better? Confidence is like 100% there now. But when it comes to like, okay, well, how do I get them back in? How to make sure that, the schedule stays full and, or paperwork or this, or what other avenues can I pull more patients from, and why isn't this patient staying? So it becomes very much analytical of, and it's annoying as hell.
Yeah, I think we've all been there, right? Man,
analysis paralysis.
Yeah, we know what you feel, and not only that, like
Did you say Miles Morales?
analysis
paralysis.
Right.
Miles
Morales?
It's a joke.
The Spider-Man joke?
Come on, man. Anyways,
Which one are you?
but no, I just I like that you said that, because that does happen, and in like I'm kind of going through a similar situation, right? Like it's slow season. The reality is, for the next week, my guys are pretty slim. Like, man, I got 2-3 weeks on the schedule, and there's like technically our company would be 0, but I know the season's coming up. The guys kind of understand that. And the guys are cool with it as long as you explain it to them and tell them, hey, we're only going to work you maybe 25 hours next week, and we're going to give everybody approximately 25 hours instead of just giving somebody all the hours or whatever, right? And I found like for my business, because it's seasonal, it's a little easier to tell people that, you know, a little easier to be like, hey, by the way, you obviously know from like December 15th to like February 15th, man, there's really not guaranteed no 40 hours. Like if we get lucky, we get lucky. If not, we don't. And sometimes there's snow work and we're gonna have to work overnight. And that's just kind of the way it is. And telling them ahead of time has definitely helped. But you just said it, you know, nobody tells you that these are some of the problems you're gonna have to deal with when you become an entrepreneur. And these are some of the conversations you either have to have with your employees or you have to fix. Well, not only or, you have to do both, right? Like for me, I have to tell my employees that, hey, this is so on and so forth. But at the same time, I also have to keep enough volume that I can keep that up until the season kicks off and so on and so forth. But at the same time, it's like, but I don't want to go through that every season, right? And you don't want to go through that every season. And it does become very difficult. A perspective I mentioned this to my brother the other day is like, he mentioned we just implemented a new process in our business. Braden actually helped kind of make it concrete per se, but like minimums on what our landscapes would cost, right? And that became concrete by putting on the website, which is where Braden kind of came in. But what that was, my brother the other day was like, well, you know, you put that in there, and does that kind of blow off the rest of the little, you know, all the little jobs? I'm like, no. What that does is help our employees feel like they're back behind something. Because I remember whenever we started our business, and I say this because you have to, conversations with people are awkward sometimes, man. They're just like, wow, I have to have these conversations. It's different. I wasn't prepared for this. But I remember when I first started sending proposals, man, sending a $2,000 to $3,000 proposal was like, man, I expect people to spend $3,000 with me? That's insane. There's no way. I'm like, and now I have a minimum of $3,500, and it's like, but do I really? No. I mean, like, realistically, if you're a good customer, you've given me work, like, I'll always do a little work for you. That's not a problem. But it puts behind our employees that faith that, hey, we are worth that at least, right? So in some degree, it's like, well, I got to fill up the schedule, but I'm supposed to hold to this standard. And it's like, how do you manage that? Well, nobody teaches you that. Yeah. Like, nobody teaches you that. You know, and on some end, you're like, and I don't know, but you know, chiropractors, you might be like, well, I have a minimum fee of, you know, whatever per visit. Well, when times are slow, you're like, dang, do I lower that fee so I can just get some people in? Yeah. And it's like, and that's okay. That's totally okay. Because guess what? It's your business. And it's up to you to figure out. And the grand scheme of things, like, I do that. You know, I lower my man-hour rate in the wintertime. In the summertime, when I'm super busy, my man-hour rate goes up. Yeah. Like, it does. It goes quite a bit up. Why? Because realistically, that's when that $3,500 minimum comes into play. Like, in the middle of the big jobs, in the middle of all these huge jobs going on, I'm sorry, but I can't come just take care of your $1,500 landscape. Like, it's just not worth the man hours. Yeah. Now, same thing for you. You know, it's like I said, it just comes down to like that weird conversations and those weird fights you have to have with yourself. You know, what does that mean to be a business owner? How do you really? And even if you go to business school, I've met people that have business degrees, and they're like, they don't teach you. Like, they teach you like the books. They teach you the basics, but but you're dealing with humans. Yeah. You're dealing with real people. You're dealing with like. It's just different. It's something they don't teach you, right? And you're learning that. And
it's a dance for sure.
Right.
It's like one of those things where you just have to kind of like learn as you go and kind of refine it. But like you were saying, with the bigger quality jobs versus smaller in chiropractic, the issue is like everyone has kind of the same size or quantity of issues. Yes, it's all within the body. It's all within a biological field. And like, okay, this is the range I'm working with. I'm not working with acres or mileage. Or it's really just like it's going from, is it a foot or a head or a little bit in between? But at the end of the day, it's like usually the fees are pretty structured, pretty much the same. But you're right. Like, if it's slow, I could throw up a Groupon really quick. I'm like, well, isn't $15 better than nothing? But then on the other side of psychology, it's you want to raise your prices to say, look, I'm the best, and I'm
value.
So confident, and I'm thriving enough to where I'm not forced to lower it to succeed or even to survive. And I think, you know, for me, I've kind of danced with that a little bit, and now I'm kind of like throwing in the towel. And I've done some things psychologically where even just with my own, you know, making people pay up front when they book something, just to say, look, I don't even want to have that conversation of money if I need to. This is healthcare. It's not a bartering system. It's not, you know, it's not something I feel like you need to go half off on sale.
You should.
And that's more of like an image thing. So, but I still do it. Like in my office, like, what do I need to do to be able to get you back in my door? You know, what do I need to do to make sure that your care is, you know, continued? But then you're chasing them down, having to micromanage people, and like, you know, scaling out is something that Braden has talked about, but you know, and he's been a huge resource in my business and my success.
Same, bro. Same.
With even just like personal questions of like,
Yeah.
hey man, this is, you know, like, because not only is he, you know, a marketer, not only is he, you know, creating content, but he's also doing it for himself. So it's like, it's one thing to have a job title or do some sort of job, but also to be like living by example and be like, well, I own my own marketing company, which means I'm also an entrepreneur, which means I know exactly what it takes to survive as just a functioning business and company, but also on the marketing side, which is pretty much like, as he mentioned, almost, you know, like, in my opinion, like 70-80% of a business is marketing. If they don't know you're there, they're not going to come use you. And if they don't know how good you are because you're not telling them about it, then that's a you problem. But and that's something I struggle with is execution. And sometimes just hiring somebody to do it for you or outsourcing is the smartest thing. Like, if you don't have the drive or the discipline to do it, you know, it's just like getting up a little extra early to get something done, you know? So it's kind of funny to watch habits in humans and see the type that, why do you get up at 4 o'clock and go to the gym? I don't even know if it's an exercise of fitness as it is an exercise of faith. Like, well, this is my lifestyle. I'm a grinder. And like doing this just makes me get up earlier and feel better about myself. It's in the mind. It's in the mindset. And that's something you have to train yourself to and sharpen constantly. Because you can rust out or, you know, before you wear out. And that's
Rust out, burn out.
Yeah, all of it. So, and just kind of get dull. So just keeping those things sharp and staying on top of it. Because I think, you know, as soon as I left the finger off my, you know, my schedule, it's like, oh my God, it's dead. You know, I'll go on vacation or I'll come here. And even now I'm like going through my phone, hitting up clients in San Diego and trying to make sure that they're getting on the schedule that, you know, like, oh, chasing down people that were, you know, not there for about a month or so. But it's so easy to forget it. You look through intake forms, exams, right? That's basically like my weeding process. And that's all it comes down to is like an exam is essentially a medical procedure to see why they're a valid client or like, so it's kind of interesting when you look at, you know, yes, ethically it's healthcare, chiropractic, whether you're an MD, DO, DC as myself, but you still have to
Still a business.
formulate. Yeah, it's still a business, even if it's
man.
health, you know. So
Yeah.
and it's just so that's the part of the learning that I've been really trying to. And this is more fun, honestly. I wanted to be more of an entrepreneur. Like I wanted to do the chiropractic. I wanted to rack and crack, adjust. Like, it's fun, you know, to get your hands on some people and be able to change your life in some way, whether it's managing pain or just creating an overall better wellness environment for their bodies and their mind to thrive, reducing stress levels. Some of them are, you know, CEOs. I had somebody that was off of Shark Tank and come in my office. I've had one of the owners of a really successful, like caricature, like kind of like, you know, not anime, but just like really, really cool guys come in my office and like throw down without even batting an eye. But, you know, and those are just the unicorns. But
Right.
But it's trying to figure out how to convert people that may not consider chiropractic, trying to figure out, you know, I don't want to start a church either because I feel like sometimes you'll see chiropractors and they're like on fire and their philosophy is so strong that they feel convicted to go out there and convert people to like getting chiropractic care. And it's insane but that's the psychology that they put on themselves to feel like if they're not out there changing lives, then they're doing like humanity a disservice. So they're just like crazy on fire and they're super successful because they're so like obsessed with it. But for me, you know, I just tell them how it is, you know, like, okay, come in, do some stretches, you know, get adjusted. Everyone has a threshold. It's like getting your hair cut. Can't come in for a haircut and then, you know, walk out the next day like, I never need a haircut again. It's like, no, in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, if you want to stay maintenance, you want to stay sharp, you want to stay looking good, see you in 4 weeks. So like get on the schedule, get them on the schedule. So, and I don't have any problem with that philosophically. Like, yeah, man, chiropractic care is wellness, it's preventative, it's maintenance, just like your car. If you're putting miles on your body, you're not changing the oil, you know, eventually it might break or you might break down quicker. How good do you want to feel at 70 versus 50?
Right.
And it's kind of like the daily. Like, do you choose to pick up a healthy habit every single day or just be like, oh, shoot, you know, time to start the chemotherapy
Right.
kind of thing. As you did X, Y, and Z for so long till your body was like, screw it. So not to say that cancer, you know, is prevented by chiropractic, but chiropractors as doctors are really preaching the other side of the coin, which is wellness, which
Right.
is, you know, let's eat salads every day versus waiting for that antibiotic or waiting to go in and take care of it with a problem. I call that crisis care versus like preventative care. But again, like these are all things that you have to kind of like teach yourself when you're in the office having that conversation with somebody. You really have to get them excited about it. Otherwise, they come in one time, you won't see them for a year until they, you know, oh, I fell down.
Right. Until
And
they're
that's not,
hurting
and
again.
that's not good for that doesn't pay the bills.
My back hurts now.
Right,
I'm gonna come into the chiropractor.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Been
I've
hurting
gotten,
for 3 weeks.
I've gotten people's faces. I felt kind of like a dick, honestly, sometimes when I do it. But I was like, oh, but you were here like 2 months ago and you're back, huh? Like, why? Why did you not come back? One, but also, why do you think you're hurting? So it's like really educating people and kind of almost being like a teacher at the same time on how to like take care of their bodies. And a lot of us, this is another reference I use, is we didn't come with a manual like a car, right? We're born in this world. We're taught like how, things in school, habits, but we're not really taught, how to take care of our bodies the correct way. And then we usually wait for someone else to tell us how to do it. And that would be a mechanic.
Or wait for your body
mechanic
to
of
tell
the healthcare.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Where your
Medical
body
doctor.
screams at you, exactly.
Be like, give you a Band-Aid. Here, let me give you some prescription.
Then that's what some of it is, If you get one adjustment, that's a Band-Aid. If you want to correct the spine and get to the root cause of why you're having those issues biomechanically to begin with, then you need to start coming in with a corrective plan 2 times a week for at least 3 weeks. That's 6 visits. By the 6th visit, you're probably feeling a little bit better.
Right.
And staying that way, right?
Right.
And which is not the Band-Aid approach. So most of my patients how much is this going to cost me? What? Okay, like how much is it worth to you?
Yeah.
How much is that beer in comparison to a chiropractic adjustment? So do you want it? Do you need it? Do you see the value in it? And that's where insurance gets weird too. And that's a whole other game.
Right.
Outside of that, it's just like, okay, now we're playing with a middleman.
And I like how you said you said something a second ago, and you kind of just brought it back, the whole maintenance perspective, right? And how much is it worth to you, right? And it sounds like you're balancing this delicate balance at the moment where you're a new entrepreneur, and you said you're 3 years roughly till you start getting your referrals, and I will attest to that, dude. That's crazy that you say that. I'd never heard that before, but it's almost true. About year 3, I started to get some referrals, and they started coming in. And now year 6, like, and I've got this other friend who tells me, like, hey, about year 15, year 20, like, it gets really good. I'm like, dude, that seems forever, right? But realistically, when you think about like time's gonna pass anyways.
Yep.
And you're gonna go through all these things, and I hear like you're trying to balance how is it, like me, how do I make my service, right, my mo worth any more than that guy's mo? Like that's it, right? Your house has to be mowed.
Yeah.
Or else it's not going to feel good, or the city's going to come mow it for you, or whatever, right? But nonetheless, it's kind of the same thing. You're the haircut, right? You're trying to get them to understand, like, there is value to this, and it's really hard to get people to understand that and see the value, especially. And I hate that you're in this, because I thankfully got a little bit of the wellness industry in me before I ever got into anything else. So I kind of believe in that whole medicine way more than the average person, But you are fighting against insurance. You're fighting against insurance that will help this, but it won't help this. But it doesn't make any sense that they would help one. Let's not go down that road. But anyways,
And it's not exciting. Like, who
it's
wants
not.
to say like, oh yeah, I just paid $100 for an adjustment. Like, it feels good, but then what's it really doing for me?
right? It's like the
just
oil change, right?
Yeah,
the mow,
car-
like,
a car. No one likes a car bill.
It's like doing
Right.
an oil change versus changing out the tires.
right. It's just
Like
it's
you
just
don't
not the
notice
same.
you don't notice anything from oil.
It's not a
changes.
big
yeah,
enough,
it's not
right?
exciting.
It's just-
right.
You know, you're investing into the mileage for the future.
It's like
Right.
adding washer fluid. It's like you still need it, but
But you're right, right.
you're not
But-
going to notice a difference.
in
You're not going to be
that,
like,
like-
I upgraded my washer fluid.
But
Like,
your wallet does,
Right.
So you have to kind of like
but
learn.
blinker
to
fluid,
appreciate
though, that shit will go out on you. And you
sure.
can't
Quick.
run out of blinker fluid.
So
that.
quick.
Blinker fluid.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Never.
don't listen to
That's
them.
why my car's not working.
His face.
You must drive a BMW. No, just kidding.
Oh, they don't have blinker fluid.
Anyway, yeah, no wonder.
They have wiper fluid.
Anyways, no, but I say that because, man, so you say, like, there is, and I've met a couple other chiropractors, and I don't know the industry at all, but frankly, you literally said stuff that's more vulnerable than most of these guys I've met, which is they don't teach you that in school of how to manage the fact that you're fighting psychology. Right, you're fighting that psychology the whole time of people, and you're fighting the psychology of money against the psychology of medicine, against the psychology of preventative medicine, wellness, right? So you're fighting all these things and trying to bring value to this one business, which is really difficult.
You have to find your people,
right? You
or
have
make
to find
them,
right, or make them, right? And in that, it all comes down to like you have this business that you're trying to run, and like you said, you're right now, you're here, and I say that because this guy went to Vegas with me last May, and I was working when we were in Vegas getting trucks. Like I was working. I've been to Vegas twice. Both times I was working. You're here. You're on vacation. You're working.
That's a work
and
trip.
it's right. Like what are we doing? It's like we're working, and it's like it feels like if you let off the gas, as my dad used to say, don't let off the gas. Don't let off the gas.
Yeah,
and it seems like as soon as you let off the gas, dude, it comes crashing down, and you're like, oh God, here I go. And it's like nobody teaches you how to manage that. You're trying to teach people how to manage their body, their wellness. But on your end, it's like, wow, you're starting a new business, and I don't remember necessarily what it was like being a brand new business. But even to this day, I still deal with the problems like you're having. Like, hey, I got to keep the schedule full. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got people to take care of. Like, and at the same time, sometimes like, well, it costs money. Like my time. And in your perspective, I understand.
Buying back time is
right.
I was reading a book recently and under that similar title, but.
Right, and it's hard because I show up to people's house and like, well, I can mow my house, and it's like, well, it's not the fact that I show up with a $2,000 mower, like that's not what you're paying for. Like it is, like your table is not cheap, right? Your equipment that you use is not cheap. That's beside the fact. It's my time that I'm invested here, like
and your expertise though. It's
right,
just, because like you might know the type of grass, or or cutting it a certain way or a certain time of the day, or not having it hydrated enough could cause brown spots. Like so, you're paying for kind of like initial insight, which has come through experience. So when you buy somebody's service, especially as a doctor,
right,
you're like, I've had patients literally say that, oh, that's it?
Right.
I'm like, what do you want to do? You want to pop like the pinky toe? Like you're paying for the fact that I just adjusted your spine around your nervous system that could in essence cripple you. But you're paying for the 10 years that I've built into becoming this modeled professional.
Right.
But same with your services. It's similar in the sense of where, what's your time worth to you? If you make $400 an hour, but you don't want to pay $80 for a mowing service, like you're losing money. You're worth more. So you have to find something that either is worth more per hour than what you're offering,
right?
Or something that says like, look, I'd rather spend that with my kids, and I can't buy that back. I'd rather spend that with my wife. Can't buy that back.
Right.
But I could have someone come in and do that, or less arguments with the wife because who's going to mow the lawn this weekend? Obviously, guys tend to take on that more than others, but not to get into gender roles, but that's
2024.
I said my
off.
house is full of gender roles, bro. Give me that. My wife is as traditional as it gets,
right?
But no, and right, and you're like I said, you're dealing with that on a psychological level, which is just it's a hard thing because, like you said, your value, right? If you put a sale out, you're diminishing your value. Like I've been working with Braden for 2 years. I've never put on a sale. I never will. Like I've tried in the past. But it comes down to like that. Like sometimes I desperately need things on the schedule. I just sold something yesterday. I told him I'll be out in 2 weeks. Why? Because you can't look too desperate, right? There's that psychological level of like, if you look too desperate, well, you weren't busy enough to come out here in the first place. Why are you not busy? Maybe I picked the wrong company. Maybe so on and so forth. Maybe you're not as experienced as I thought. And like you said, it's this whole balance in being a business owner where on one level, well, I need to work. On the other level, I need to build value in myself.
Mm-hmm.
How do you? And it's a hard balance. I know we've all been there, right? Where it's just a hard balance where it's like, do I do it or not? And how much damage versus what's the ROI on this? And sometimes it's okay. Like I hate working with builders, man. I hate it. Why? Because I think working with builders, they nickel and dime you. It's crap, and they expect you to bend over backwards for a nickel and a dime, where this guy over here is paying a quarter. Come on, man. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. But in that same breath, I've come to realize, like, you know what? In the wintertime, those builders keep me alive.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for them. And kind of like in your perspective, I don't know, but you have to figure out where that balance is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for us, thankfully, our company, we've grown, we have a team, but I allow my brother to deal with the builders. Like, bro, you keep us busy during winter time, but I don't want to deal with it. I don't. Yeah. I want my creative time to come in the summertime when I got these amazing big jobs and but I don't want to deal with the builders. But I understand that I have to keep the bills paid somehow, which comes into the builders and so on and so forth. And at the same time, like, I have to still keep this image of professional that the longer backlog you have, the more in value you are, right? Like I used to work with a nutritionist, and she would have a backlog of 6 to 8 weeks, and it would baffle the hell out of me. At this point, I was just an employee, but it would just baffle the hell out of me that, I mean, people would just wait like 2-3 months to come see her, and I'm like, what? What do you mean? And then
Wasn't it Mindy that was 8 months out?
Yes,
Yeah.
she's out till March or something, or May, or I don't know. Anyways,
March.
Chance knows.
Yeah, I've got appointments set.
Yeah, right. So that's what I'm saying. It's like it would baffle me as an employee that somebody would wait that long to see someone. Like it was just like, what? Just find somebody else. Like I don't get it.
I say pain is a
You-
powerful
you
motivator.
Right.
You associated with that person, like you made a relationship,
Right.
You related,
But that was
somehow,
something
you know?
that wasn't taught to me. That was something that was not relevant to my mind when I was an employee there. And now that I'm a business owner, as you bring up, like it's a psychological factor. Like at the time, I thought, wow, this is insane. And now as I get older, I'm like, and I'm the business owner. I'm like, dude, if I can build a backlog, that shows that that's somebody you want to work with. Like that's somebody that, and not only that, it puts my value first, right? So, like for instance, I'm trying to build a backlog this year of 5 to 6 weeks of leads. Dude, that's a huge thing to try to take on.
And leads are an interesting one too, because you can go after the individual fish, or you can start networking with people. And I think for me, the networking is super important.
You mother.
That's that CGI that we got in here, that AI and
right.
interpretation.
No, networking is key to everything.
And that's been like one of my bigger struggles, I guess. Like kind of as a newer entrepreneur and a newer business, I guess you kind of said it's been a while since you've kind of revisited those feelings to some extent. But I think building those initial funnels and streams of referrals are huge.
What is happening right now? You and me are totally over here just like eating
But-
popcorn and enjoying the show on that side of the room.
This guy's got a great story.
They're the ones having the conversation right now. This is the only bad part about having more than one host. Is because when someone's going to have a conversation, you
got 4
need
hosts
to
in
let them
here.
have a conversation.
Oh yeah, no, it's good shit. Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, so I mean, but the referrals has been my biggest thing recently. So I would say definitely getting that. And you have to get out there and do it. That's where you have to take the time, the confidence to shut down the schedule and be like, I'm going to go out and network with these attorneys or these other medical professionals. And now it's
So do you have anyone else working for you? Is it just
no, it's just me. I'm a one-man band at my office in Coronado. So I do the scheduling. I get them rebooked. I have to go out there and fish for them.
Insurance.
Insurance is kind of a new thing. I've had maybe 1 or 2 referrals from that, but that's kind of going back to what you need to do to just kind of feed yourself through the slow season. So, and it's interesting because like as soon as I came out here, I had new patients booking on my schedule that I have no idea who they are. I didn't go out and stress about them all week, but then as soon as I felt like I was not stressing,
Leap of faith.
I was like, screw it. I'm going to shut down my schedule, go see Braden, just go do some work stuff, just kind of take a minute out of my daily to kind of zoom out and kind of refocus in on what's actually productive, what's actually making money, where should I be spending my time? Because I get caught up into small little like tedious tasks, and I'm like, oh my god, I felt super like whirlwinded, overwhelmed, and realizing that you really didn't get anything accomplished or necessarily done in the better, judgment of like what's actually going to make you money and what's going to help build your business overall. So that's been my biggest challenge recently. But I think creating those referral streams is what's going to set you up so that those, natural lead generations come on without having to go out and go, I need a lead generation. I'm going to go find it. So it's nice when they trickle in.
Right.
And insurance is one of them. So, but
Man, I remember when Chance had just started in Threaded, and I love remembering what it was like, and I say that because, man, you get comfortable. It's life, right? We're all human. And you mentioned expanding, hopefully to Oklahoma maybe, to just keep things interesting.
yeah, well, and also just to push yourself. Like the more I think overhead you have, the more it's like, okay, I have $3,000 in overhead now, not $800. So now I have to even
You have to work a little harder.
I have to do it. Otherwise, I don't pay that.
Right, and I love that you say that because, so I'm running in a particular kind of a similar situation where sometimes you have to take that leap of faith, right? You took a leap of faith and you're like, I'm gonna shut down my schedule. I'm gonna go see Braden, right? And you literally mentioned, hey, I got some new leads. I don't even know who these people are, where they got nothing. I just know that, hey, awesome. And I took a leap of faith. That was hard for me to say I'm gonna shut down and go here and do this, and And it's funny
It's
because
actually been better for business, honestly.
right, but right,
Strangely.
sometimes,
So-
and it's hard to recognize that as a new entrepreneur, man. Sometimes the best thing you can do is take a break.
Yeah.
And sometimes the best thing you can do is go harder, right? And there's no school that's going to teach you that ever. And sometimes it just feels right, and sometimes you just like, you know what? No. And I say that because right now I'm going in a similar predicament where next week I'm going to Chicago for some training that was completely unplanned until last week. But opportunity presented itself. I was like, you know what? F it. I've been wanting to get that training.
Yeah.
And I've been mentally and manifesting it out loud that, hey, I'm going to get these types of jobs this year. Like, I made it a goal for me, and I've said it repeatedly. I'm going to sell at least 6 jobs over $100,000 this year. It's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And I keep manifesting. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to jump on this opportunity for this job. And the other day I went to a proposal that I thought was nothing. I show up. Turns out it's, first of all, a whole legal fight with the HOA. But second, if I land the job with the HOA or with the whole thing, I get to build an outdoor kitchen. The guy literally says, if you land that job, you get the whole job. That's it. Like, I don't need any other, nothing.
It's a big fish.
Big
yeah.
fish out of a little. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, this is a whole HOA. I don't know if you know anything about HOAs, but they're a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with this. And oh, man. And then I get to thinking, and it's like, right now you're taking a rest and paid off great. And I love it. And you need to remember that that's always great. And there'd be times where, like right now, where I'm like, man, I just took a little bit more. And then I feel like God's testing me. How bad do you want this? Like, how bad do you want this? And you know what I was doing a week ago? I was in OKC chilling with my kids. And I literally did it on a whim. My kids asked me, Dad, can we do something fun this weekend? I was like, you guys have been sick for a week and a half. You guys want to go stay in a big old hotel in a big old city? My kids are 5, 3, and 2. Like 5, 4, and 2. OKC is a big city. So we went and stayed in a hotel. I was relaxing. I took it on a whim. I'm like, there's nothing on the schedule. I'm freaking the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do?
Doing something
I should be doing something productive, networking, going knocking on doors, something. But my girls are asking me for time for me. You know what? I'm gonna take a chance. And then I come back and I'm like, all right, well, there's a few more leads. I'm gonna call them, whatever, going to jobs. And then it turns out like, holy this could literally, I have a training next week. I have a job come up. Like, I could do, oh my God, what is this? And I hope, and I swear that's the way it happens, man. Sometimes you just got to take that leap of faith in business where sometimes it is that break. I know Braden, he preached about it, I think 2 years ago, where he took a week off every quarter. And he was like, dude, that was huge. And last year maybe wasn't able.
Again.
Right. I'm doing it this year because
Doing
you
it
said
again.
it. But it's like, those things seem so hard, man. But you said it in the very beginning. You get so caught up in every day, all day, you're thinking about your business.
Yeah,
Think about if all you did was work out 24/7 and nothing else. At some point,
No
you're
time for
peaking.
recovery,
You're no time for recovery. You're hurting yourself, right? And it's really hard as a business owner, especially as a solopreneur, to remember that it's okay to take a break.
Yeah.
And if your schedule's a little light, it's cool, man. Somehow the guy upstairs got a plan. He's gonna take care of your bills so long as you're taking care of his people within the best way possible. And your way is chiropractic, right? I'm mowing yards. This guy's marketing for people, whatever. He's taking care of his people.
Build
You know?
websites.
Yeah, right. Building websites
and brands. You know, with Blue Studio, for example, I think you know, that's something that, like, chiropractic gets a license. It's a governed entity. You walk into it and it's like kind of like sells itself in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously within some realm. But then with like Blue Studio, it's like you have to build the idea, the concept. No one is quite doing it that way. Like that, I think that's like the epitome of entrepreneurship, where it's not reinventing something, but it's like
Well,
building.
like with Blue Studio, Devin and I have trialed and errored cables, like the difference between 2.0 and 2.1 HDMI cables. That won't work with camera feeds. The 2.0 one. How do we set up multiple camera angles and get it all into one feed and simultaneously upload to the cloud as we record, and being able to not have to sit here and upload for 6 hours, 200 gigs worth of video,
as we just said,
and
with
an
Dom.
audio,
Failing
all this
forward.
stuff. And
Failing often.
I mean, and then the upgraded mic. So now we record on the pod mics opposed to the Zoom mics. The headphones fit over the ears a little bit better. They're just bigger headphones or larger headphones. And then now, like, the studio's about to change even more. But the only way that I was justifyingly saying, here's how I can invest
Play
more
with
time,
this.
more energy into Blue Studio. It's from coming up with a proof of concept. No one would come and book the studio when I started it in May of 22.
Yeah.
No one would do it. No, it was like 2 or 3 months. I was like, all right, fine, I'm going to do it.
I remember that.
And I need a way to be able to connect with business owners to hire me, because if I cold call them, if I email them, if I knock on their door, I'm no different than a guy from calling him from India. And I'm not being racist when I say that. I'm just being factual, because I get those calls all the time.
It's disconnected, and I think as a business owner, it's like know and trust is building a brand.
Yeah.
And I think this was genius for you to be able to bring in like-minded individuals and have a conversation with them, because it's kind of like interviewing, but also producing content, like literally giving them something they can post on their page right off the bat, just for coming in and consulting with you.
Yeah, and I'm going from B2B type of business at Sooner Marketing to B2C at Blue Studio, which is nice.
Yeah.
But because B2B is much harder than B2C.
You know why?
Tell me the secret sauce.
It's like a personal fulfillment or what?
I don't know.
B2B is harder because B2B, you're usually doing with people who still think in the poor mindset because they're still an employee in their minds. Let's be real. It's harder to get money out of
B2C is
and
harder, or B2B?
B2B, because most business owners that I've met are not rolling in the dough. Most business owners I've met at home are pinching pennies and figuring out how to make it to the next stage of their life.
That's because most business owners are under this $2 to $5 million mark. There's a lot of them are between 100,000 and 2 million.
And why I say that is because whenever I say that, in the grand scheme of things, whenever at home they're struggling to make a $200 purchase for whatever that $200 purchase, the car repair, whatever, it's hard for them to justify a $200 purchase in the business, even though the $200 purchase in the business will give you an ROI. Well, at the same time, sometimes the car repair will give you the ROI, like keep getting you to your job. But it's really hard for me, like, even though the business might have $500, it's hard for me to spend $500 if I can't spend $500 in my personal life. And that's just like the psychology behind it. It's like, well, if it's not a business expense, like, I can wait on it.
I think part of it too is like the fear of performance. You're like, if I take this $500 and I put it towards X, Y, and Z with all these different options and strategies and marketing techniques, like my question would be like, if I spent for every dollar, am I guaranteed 5? Because yeah, sure. If you're like, John, you can stress about it for 2 weeks, bitch and moan to your girlfriend, and be like, oh, nobody's coming in, this fucking sucks, I'm over this shit, whatever, and then, or you can like be like, if I take this $500, reinvest it, and not spend it on the booze and all that stuff, right? And then it comes out with 5 more people. That's okay. Now you see your return, and if you can replicate that, even more empowering, right? If you can be like, okay, I only need to take that 500 and you grow it. You get to 750 because 2 more people came in. Instead of saying, cool, I'm rich, you take that and you reinvest. But I think it's been interesting to kind of adopt a business as an identity and say, like, as an S-Corp, for example, it's its own little governed body, but you have to treat it like that. You have to nourish it. You have to water it like a garden. But I think a lot of people, like, they're like, I started it. That's the name. Now it's just a money machine, but you have to realize that, like, I think somebody that has employees understands that more than I do personally, just because you realize it's not just about you, it's about other heads, it's about other bodies that you have to take care of.
100%.
Families.
I always say that, don't I? It's like, dude, I got families I'm taking care of. And mine's the last one to eat, which is terrible. Yeah. Like, I agreed to take care of all these other people first, before my family. Whenever I was an employee, my family was the only one I cared about.
Yeah, I think when you start a business, it's like a selfish motive. You're like, I'm starting a business because I want to make changes for me.
I want that freedom. I want that
But then all of a sudden, you're starting to build kind of like a body of people or an idea or a culture, at least a local one.
Right, a community.
Yeah.
Real quick, today's Brews and Business podcast episode.
It's brought to you by.
I don't know why I'm entertained by talking like a news station.
Like a show host.
I know.
Like a show
Keeping
host.
it fresh.
So, Abel, Devin, and JP here are finishing up the Henry McKenna single barrel, aged 10-year Kentucky straight bottled in bond bourbon whiskey. That's a mouthful. Back in established 1855. This is a great bottle of whiskey, I will say.
What'd you guys think?
It was, yeah.
It was
It's
a
gone,
great bottle of whiskey.
So.
And then I've got a little bit of this Bowmore left over. If you haven't had this Bowmore, it's aged 15 years in an exquisite sherry cask finish that develops the layers of rich peat-smoked complexity of 15 years age. Yeah.
Dang, bro.
It'll bring an Irish jig out of you.
Yeah, I know, right? That's what I was thinking.
Gonna need that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
so let me ask you, JP. What's the newest thing that you feel like, and I haven't ever been in this position. You, Braden, Chance, you guys have all been here. I've always had someone to bounce my ideas off of. I've always had a partner. What's the last
It's lonely
big change or big adjustment you've decided to make in your life, because it is in your life that you make these changes that ideally will affect your business? What is that last thing that you feel like you've done that really did make that difference for you? Was, and I say that because, sometimes it's like, hey, that workout or reading that book or waking up at 4 o'clock or whatever that is, like, or just answering the fucking phone.
Yeah.
Right. Like what is that thing that you feel like, hey, ever since, that was the biggest thing for me as a solopreneur at the moment?
I think probably maybe just if you were to put it on one thing, it would be just one, starting with self-reflection, but then also realizing like time is your greatest enemy, but also like your greatest friend. So like the more time I spend dicking off, or like I'm really trying to make changes, or like my business isn't growing, you're moaning, you're bitching about it, and you're like, well, what's changing that? The idea that you're frustrated that you're staying stagnant, or kind of stepping back and reapplying yourself in that way. So for me personally, just being like kind of raw, but okay, like I have X amount of clients in Coronado. If I'm having this independent contract out and do extra work at other offices, not living my truth as an entrepreneur and getting frustrated with that, like this isn't what I signed up for. Those are some words self-reflected words that go through my head, but taking a step back and realizing that, I'm 31, I'll be 32, every year that goes by that I'm not doing myself justice with making more revenue. I can't be investing that. I can't be, if I want to have kids, wife, future, whatever I want to do with my life, like I'm only hurting myself by not taking action. So I think the biggest thing is just, making excuses, telling yourself that you don't have time or this and that. But then I step back and I go like, this person has 3 kids and a wife. I have 0 kids and no wife. Like, and I've done that to myself because I want to.
Thanks for making us all look bad, Brayden.
But it's more
you
like
have 3 kids and a wife.
it's a mindset. Like
And you make me look bad.
Why? What'd I do?
it's just it's
Just the way you work, man.
But
Just the way you work.
I don't know what he's talking about.
but that's the caliber
just do
of
my
like
shit.
building yourself up into
just
something where you
do
can,
the do,
you can
you
grow.
know?
So
I make a do list and I
transform
do the do
yourself,
list.
too. Those are all skills like you're not born with them. You're not taught
No,
them. You have to just
absolutely
you strengthen it by exercising it, just like any other muscle, right? And so I think being an entrepreneur, it's like waking up and just staying consistent. So
Say something.
we didn't. That was.
Chance has to say something.
No, they're talking. And you're trying to talk over them.
this
Oh, he's
vulnerability.
fine. He's fine. And that's honestly, look.
What'd
look,
you say?
You mentioned something a minute ago about how this guy came up with the proof of concept, right? And he said it. Nobody would book the Blue Studio, so then we just
That's when the podcast
he
started.
thought of an idea, and we're like, fuck it, let's go. And here we are, a year and a half later,
The
and we've
dApps.
met some great people.
Really, really.
Devin
great people,
and Braden
honestly.
have the
You
studio
know how hard it would
transformation.
be to real quick to chime in on what you're saying. You know how hard it would be to like just call up a guy like Josh or Don just out of the blue and be like, "Hey, can we get coffee?"
Right.
They'd be like, "Who the hell
Who
are
the hell
you?
are you?
Why?
Right.
Why?
Right.
And then why do you want to know about what I'm doing? Why do you want to know about my business? And why
I
should
got
I
a
share
podcast.
this with you? Like,
Right.
I'm going to spend an hour with you. Like,
Now there's a
why?
whole studio. There's a whole. But
I'm just trying to help get free content, bro. Like
Yeah. Right. Right. That's literally the whole premise.
Yeah,
is hey,
that-
I'm trying to get your exposure. I'm trying to get you
Yeah.
out. That's it.
And this is
But-
day 1, so whenever you're ready to sign up.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
So-
But with that, like, man, they've put a lot of time and effort into this. But it was an idea, right, that Braden had, and it's really turned into a fun passion project of mine. That like literally, if people are like, hey, I seen the podcast. I'm like, whoa. I just show up and say shit. Like this is all this guy. This is all this guy.
I haven't talked this whole episode
But
until now.
but
Right.
but
Oh, but you built the conversation.
but he built
you
it.
did.
He built
You just
it.
didn't get to participate.
No, listen. I will put this in perfect perspective of surrounding yourself with the right people and becoming the right person. I have on the back of one of my monitors, my first monitor I ever got. I thought it was a big deal. Whatever. It was a nice monitor. But anyways, I put a sticker on the back of it that says creator of opportunities. Mm-hmm. And everybody looked at that and was like, what the fuck does that mean? It's like, I am the creator of my own opportunity. Mm-hmm. My friendship with Braden and his opportunity, his creation of the Blue Studio gave us the opportunity at this podcast.
Yeah.
Right? It all comes down to networking. Mm-hmm. It all comes down a little bit of luck, a little bit of hard work, right? It all kind of comes together. And realistically, it's like you are the creator of your own opportunity. And like you said, hey, you see in Colorado, maybe you're a little stagnant or whatever. Like that's okay. How do I make this more interesting? You are creating your own opportunities. Like that's it. Like, hey, and guess what? Sometimes the opportunities are bad opportunities. Sometimes
you got to plant them
opportunities
seeds
are bad, and
as
it doesn't
often
matter.
as you can.
Right,
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter because keep trying. Like I've said repeatedly.
And it's not always sexy.
Hey man, my favorite saying of all my business, I've said it repeatedly, you're gonna have to eat shit. Use the big spoon. Use the big spoon.
It goes down quickly.
Get it over with.
Yeah.
That's it. Like it's life. No matter where you are in life.
I thought it was empty.
¿Quieres más?
This no,
Sí.
get them on.
Sí.
Come on.
But it's the truth, man. Like in life, in all of us, and you starting a business. I remember when I was starting a family. Like, dude, it's hard. Like it's hard to balance all of it. It's hard to juggle what's right, what's wrong, and as a man, I feel like we don't get the opportunity to just hang out with people. And maybe it was different back in the day. It probably was. You know, social media probably killed this whole thing. But like just hanging out with your guys and be like, dude, like I'm trying to juggle all this shit while at the same time trying to have like a love life, like having a family and be a part of my kids' lives and like, but no, instead, like, guess what? Somebody has to be out there thinking about not only paying the bills with the business, but also paying everybody else's bills with the business.
What did
and
someone
keeping
say
the schedule
that there's,
full?
There's no such
and-
thing as balance. It's harmony.
Right.
Like
Right.
you're never gonna have this perfect teeter between A and B. The A and B is a consistent, even flow. You're gonna have your ups and your downs, and you're gonna have whatever. Let's say you have multiple waves. One of the waves is family. One of the waves is business. You're gonna have them. You want them waving together, ups and downs together. You know, if you have one that's too high, one that's too low, and then you got this uneven, and you're going to feel these extremes of these extreme heights and these extreme lows. And so you got to figure out what that harmony looks like in your life between, you know, your friends, your family, your health and wellness, you know, taking care of your body and taking care of your spouse and
pillars,
relationships and taking care of your kids. And you have all these waves. I love analogies. You know, my mom, she's the queen of analogies.
Yes.
So,
Right now, my mom.
but anyways,
is surfing
yeah,
these
but like
waves.
trying to just like, again, surfing those waves and creating that harmony, like,
Yeah.
it's tough to do, but when you can do that, it's bliss, even for a week.
Yeah, I like how you said that. Even for a week,
Even for a week,
because
you feel
sometimes,
that bliss.
yeah, right.
Because you're like, oh, my whole life isn't this perfect harmony, and you know, there's so much chaos, and I'm just waiting for the waves to crash, and I'm like, you know, but right now, for this last week,
Be in it.
or this month, like,
Be in it.
wait a minute, nothing. No waves are crashing.
It's been graceful.
And I'm floating.
Yes.
Like, yeah, I'm on some highs and I'm on some lows and every day, but overall, like I'm cruising. I'm surfing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
He's Mr. Cruising.
Mr. Cruising.
Be cruising.
Oh,
Be
shit.
cruising.
Be cruising.
Be cruising
But-
like surfing bird.
In that,
you can find me on Twitch.
unbelievable.
Straight up.
Anyways, aside from that, like, dude,
Be cruising.
you know,
gaming.
I think like having friends like Braden. I know Braden's been a huge resource for me. I know, like, well, we started off as a strictly business relationship.
He was cheap.
I still am cheap. Still am cheap.
Conservative.
You're
Cheap,
not cheap,
bro.
The other
You're not
C
cheap.
word.
Cheap.
I need to be more like you. You know, you were one day here.
I'm just aware. That's
remember
what
how
it
you're
is.
like, you just need to make the equipment work with what you have.
That's all it is. I'm
Like,
resourceful.
just make it work, and
you
that's
don't
great.
like resources
because I'll be
Dude.
a little bit more of his gas, and he's a little bit more of
Right.
of my brakes. you know?
The thing that I always say is like my what he's getting at is I say you don't like resources, you like resourcefulness. That's a Tony Robbins quote. There's no way you can't get it done.
Shout
You're just not working hard enough. It's just the reality. But anyways, at that, like, man, I lost track of fucking whatever I was saying. Like, well,
same
okay.
now.
Yeah.
Braden has been a great help in just surrounding yourself with the right people. Like, again, I know you're in San Diego, and I'm sure you're networking. Dude, networking sucks.
It can be fun, but it's also like you
No,
just want to get up and do the job.
Listen. It's always fun. I think it's always fun.
So 8-minute
When
warning.
you're there.
8-minute warning. Okay, it's always fun. But if I'm being honest, it sucks, dude. Like, I don't want to go out and drink and meet with people and never fucking talk to you again.
Yeah.
Like,
Unless it's free.
Working.
Generally,
I am.
Should be.
I don't care. I'm working, and maybe it's different. I get a situation. I love my wife. I love my kids. I love my home. I would rather be at fucking home.
Yep.
If I'm gonna be here doing nothing but getting drunk, I'll go home and get drunk with my wife.
And
my wife's awesome to get drunk with. Like,
So are the kids.
Yeah, no shit. Literally, they go give me my beers. Hell
Hands
yeah.
down.
Like, absolutely. But the reality is, like, we have to work, right? We have to work. It's part of work. So networking, in my opinion, it sucks, but it's an important part of the job.
It's a huge.
It's an important part of the job.
One of the few places that I've actually felt like I could network at and actually see the same people and build relationships and not feel obligated like a BNI job.
HBA.
Is HBA.
I knew you were gonna fucking
The
say that.
HBA.
I did
The
the
HBA
BNI
right
thing
now
for
is
a while.
fire. Like,
You say no?
like I'm on.
To
I joined the
BNI?
40 Below
No,
stuff.
I did BNI.
I have a
Oh, I
couple
did-
of
I did as
sponsors.
well.
I'm the casino bar sponsor, and I'm the Parade of Homes party bus sponsor. So,
Maybe
like-
I should join the HBA real quick.
like when I sponsor those, I'm going to be at those events.
You got the HOA,
and I'm going to bring my team with me.
Just keep.
I'm going to bring my team with me too, and
No,
we're all
no,
going to be
right.
branded in apparel. So I'm gonna
Dude, do
I'm gonna
it.
do the logo recognition thing to where all you do is see the
Yes.
logos, and then you're like, "Oh, dude, you're the bar sponsor. That's cool." Blah, blah, blah. Start a
Yeah.
conversation. I don't. Hopefully that starts conversations,
No, it will. It will.
and I'll be over there chilling by the bar, like,
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. No, I mean, so see, that's another thing that they don't teach you that in business school.
How to
that-
hang up by the bar? No, I learned that in college.
Learn,
Yeah.
learn in
Being
college.
21.
I didn't get to learn that. I went to community college.
But learning
Started
where to
there.
network, because I've been to so many networking
Dude,
events,
same.
and I've thought that these people were my audience, and I've thought that they had the money. I thought they were going to be great, and then, man, it's for me personally, it's taken me years to figure out who my audience is. Like, I'm not meeting Dawn at a BNI group. I'm not meeting Dawn at the Jinx Chamber of Commerce. You know what I
or
mean?
Rotary, which I was also in. or
And we're
am in,
talking,
but-
we're talking tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars that he is a part of in that organization. That it runs at that level. Like where are those guys? So how do you meet those guys?
They're everywhere,
Where?
but
Where do you-
nowhere.
when you least look for.
But
it.
here's the thing. I agree with you 100% because the BNI, I was part of that for a year and a half. It works great, but it's too hard.
I think it just trains you to.
I thought you went
hate
back.
networking.
It's too hard. No,
so
dude,
you
I
actually
I
go.
Oh, did you
quit.
change your mind?
I quit. I quit entirely.
I was kicked out, but
I thought you said
They're
you
like,
rejoined a
you,
month ago.
You had too many absences.
you were
didn't
in the you were in the red for way too long. I was like, I usually
yeah.
blow past those anyways. Is it just a suggestion? Are we in Italy? I don't know what's going on.
Anyways,
But
yeah, right. Like, I was a part of it for a year and a half. It was helpful, but it was helpful at least for me. And the only reason I joined it was personal benefit, personal development. I needed to get out in front of people. I needed something
standing
that,
up.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah,
30
right.
second
Well, you
That's
learned,
it.
you
That's
learned
it.
how you learned to
Your
like
heart
present
flutters
yourself.
Right,
that
that's
day,
all
like-
it was, right? And it did fantastic for that. Do I think it's really worth it? No. It's more like
Because
people
everyone
like
else is trying to figure it out too, and those are the people you need to figure out.
It's not worth it.
But-
But in the grand scheme of things, they're everywhere and nowhere, right? These people and the Jinx Chamber. You bring up chambers, right? Chambers. Anybody that you meet that their job is a business development director, their job is to go to fucking chambers. That's it. They go to chamber events and they give you business cards. That is all they do. They go knocking on doors and they go, and that's okay. But that doesn't give you conversations like this.
Which
It
is
doesn't.
again why we
It does
started
not-
Brews Business.
it does
and why
not
Blue
give you-
Studio is
right.
here to have it. Bring opportunities to
It
make these
doesn't.
conversations.
It
like-
gives you somebody to say, "Oh, well, give me a call, and I'll
Yeah.
put you in touch with the right person to take
which
care
they
of you."
don't.
They, typically
That-
they
Business
say
card
don't.
winds up in
Oh, yeah,
their
yeah,
bottom
totally.
floorboard of their truck, or in the trash can,
Yeah.
or in a binder with hundreds
You know what?
of other ones.
You know what
or
I
in a
get here
stack,
recently?
or-
Oh, you guys can mow my yard. Actually, we don't do residential maintenance. Oh, so what do you guys do? Well, we do large landscape projects. Like, oh, okay. It was like our minimum is roughly about $5,000. Oh, That's okay. That's okay. Like
I'm
I
sorry, I'm
understand
not gonna
that.
mow your lawn for $30.
But like you said, maybe the wrong audience.
Yeah.
Right. And that's okay. You gotta figure out what your audience. And I feel like as a business owner, you never figure out your audience. Like it's always evolving. It's
Before
always
you join the
changing.
HBA, make sure you put down my name.
I will. Everybody's and their fucking mother has asked me, and trust me, Braden, I will put yours down and your mother's. Don't worry. And Devin's mother, and Devin. Shit, I'll put him down too.
It's like the same mother.
It is exactly
A brother from another mother.
same mother.
Same mother.
Anyways, we should probably be wrapping that up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
We got some babies to get home to.
Yeah, we do. We do have some pretty badass merch, I will say. So far, I mean, we need to come up with some other ideas, but my favorite is this. What did we call it earlier? A
can glass.
A glass can.
A glass can.
A glass
Yeah,
can.
it kind of looks like a glass and a can. It's got the official Brews and Business logo on it. So you guys can grab that on brewsandbiz.com. That's brews, the letter N, and then biz.com. Then we have our official pint glass
As a Nancy.
with a really cheesy saying on the back. Just another beer drinker with a podcast problem.
Yep.
Each one of us.
Except we seem to
So
drink a little
twisted.
bit more whiskey than
drink,
beer,
we
but
drink
it's
a little
okay.
bit more whiskey. You
the
still have to
But,
brew it.
hey, I
you
have a
know.
question.
The last
Sorry,
one, at least we have
Before
t-shirts.
T-shirts. I'm sorry. T-shirts. Those are great too. Actually, they're really comfortable.
They are
They are super comfortable.
Bella Canvas. Do you wear
Anyways,
yours? Have you tried it on yet?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's comfortable. I like
It was
it.
nice.
I want to ask, have you tried the glass can yet? Like, is it like
I use
as-
it all the time.
okay? Well, what I'm going to ask is it as indestructible as the beer glass?
Can.
Like the regular glass, pint
Oh, the
glass?
I don't know.
'Cause that
but
that
I
pint
would be
glass is
disappointed
damn
if either
near
one of them broke.
indestructible.
I've
I
dropped it
promise you.
twice on concrete.
It's a cannon.
Dude, it
but
is.
Have you really?
glass.
Yeah.
Yes, dude, that pint glass is like that's kid proof, 100%. I promise you.
Wow.
My kids, because I got some ARC ones too.
Yeah.
Dude, my kids love those two glasses.
It must
'Cause
be
I have
tempered or
I have
something.
a Brews and Business and
Probably
a
is. Probably.
ARC, and they love
Fire
them. And they're
forged.
great.
If your glass
the
breaks,
monks.
don't ask for a return.
Don't ask
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
return.
yeah.
They're just
No,
great.
it's not. I'll say
They're
it's
just
fine.
third glasses.
Yeah,
They're just
because
great.
you probably
You-
broke it on purpose.
Yeah, it's your fault.
Probably shot it.
User error.
You dropped it the wrong way.
Yeah.
You're supposed to drop it this way,
The
not that
other
way.
way.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, well, John, thanks for coming all the way out to California to be on the Brews and Business podcast. It's been quite the pleasure.
Oh, it was pleasurable.
Yeah, John Meisner from Back to Play Chiropractic. You want to give us a quick shout out?
Yeah, so shout out to Braden Cruz.
to you.
And, to myself? I mean,
Yes.
it's not about me, man.
No, it is
It is
about
about
you.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
I'm
is.
shouting
on
out
our
to myself.
podcast.
That's like
Yeah.
an internal shout. So
How do we get a hold of you? Where do I find
Oh,
you?
as far as okay, like a social connect. So yeah, you can find me on Back to Play Chiro, Instagram handle, backtoplay.chiro.com, or you just freaking Google me, come out, see me. We'll have a California burrito and probably adjustment somewhere in there too. So
Get cracked.
get cracked,
Get cracked.
I like that.
cracked and whacked.
All right, man. Well, thank you everyone for listening today. It's been a wonderful episode. We'll see you next time.
Man, that was good.
Bye.